How to create a mailing campaign and its letters. The first thing we'll do is go to the mailing campaign section that you'll find on the sidebar of your screen here where you have the mailbox. This takes you to the mailing campaign tab. Right now I do not have any mailing campaign created in my REIFax account, so I'm going to proceed first to create a mailing campaign. In order to do that, I'll create on the plus sign that I find on the top right corner of my screen. That button opens this window that says Mailing Campaign Add. And here all I need to do is type the name of my new mailing campaign. Once I type the name of my new mailing campaign, I'll click on Save. And I'll have mailing campaign added successfully. These campaigns act like folders where you'll store the properties that you want to add to this campaign. So here we have the name of the campaign, the number of properties we have on this campaign. Right now I do not have any number of properties. Creation date is when I created this campaign. Last sent date is the last date when I generated the letter. And number sent is the amount of times I've generated letters for these properties, for this campaign. Right now, as I mentioned, I do not have any properties here. So, next, I'll go to search in order to look for some properties that I can add to this campaign. From here, from the search section, you can run a search from scratch, selecting one by one the parameters that you want. Or you can do as I will. You can click on Manage Search and click on any of the multiple options that you have. Remember that with your REIFax account, you'll have some pre-saved searches that you'll recognize because they begin with REIFax. I'm going to scroll until I find a search that I like. I'm going to click on this one. And I'll click on Load so that I can have the parameters in my search section. Once the parameters are here in my search, I'm going to click on Search. I got 141 properties in my results. So right now I'm going to select some of these properties so I can add them to my mailing campaign. When you have properties with this icon, see this mailbox is just like this one. This icon means that these properties are already in a mailing campaign. Okay? So I'm going to select some properties that are not. So I've selected 10 properties and I'll click on this icon here that says Mailing Campaign. When you click on that button, you have two options. You can either click on the drop-down menu so you can select a previous mailing campaign you have, or you can click on this button in order to create a new mailing campaign. Right now I'll select the previous one, the one we created at the beginning, and I'll click on Add Properties. The system offers me a counter and I'll be able to know how much it takes, and once it finishes, I'll have this window that says Property successfully added to your mailing campaign, and I can click on OK. Now I'll go back to my mailing tab and I still see here 0 properties, but I'll refresh my window. And now it says 10 properties. So this means that I now have 10 properties in my mailing campaign. In order to see these 10 properties, I'll click on the campaign, on the name of the campaign. And this offers me the mailing campaign properties. Now you'll see that I have the information of the properties that I added. Here I have number sent. This is the number of letters that I've generated on this particular property. I have the address of the property. This is the status of the property. Here you'll see the unit if applies, the city, the zip code, and last send date is the date when you last sent a document or a letter. Okay? So now we have these properties. Let's say that we want to send or to generate the letter that we want to send. You can either select one by one, as you can always do, or you can click on this checkbox in order to select all 10 properties that I have in my campaign. Once I do that, in order to generate the letter, I'll click on this button here that says Mailing Letters. This will open the panel that will allow me to either create or select one of the templates that I have on my account for letters. With the panel here, I have, as I mentioned, two options. I can either type a letter from scratch. I can even select the variables that the system offers. Clicking here on this arrow, it displays all the variables that I can use. Or I can also click on this button in order to hide or display the variables. In my case, what I want is to select one of the templates that I previously created. So I'll click here where it says Manage Template. This opens a drop-down menu. I'll display all of my options. Once I select my template, I just click on Load, and I'll have the template that I selected. Remember that from here you can also modify the template if you need to. I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to click on this button that says Create Letters. And I'll get this window that says Letters Successfully Created, and I'll click on OK. Once you click on OK, the system opens a new tab with a PDF file where you'll be able to see the letters that you just created. Please remember that since this is a new tab on your browser, you need to have the pop-ups unblocked on your computer so you can see this result, this letter. If you click on OK and nothing happens, the first thing you'll need to check is if the pop-ups are unblocked in your browser. So now we have the letters here, and as you can see, we do not see any variables anymore, but we see the names and the rest of the information that concerns to this particular property. So in this case, we have Dear Brian, here's the most amazing offer you'll get on this property, and this is the offer. And if I scroll down, I'll be able to keep seeing the names and the rest of the information. As you see here on this counter, I selected 10 properties and now I have 10 letters. Once I check that everything's working correctly, I can either right click and print, or I can use the button that the browser offers. Remember that also, instead of print, you can save this as a PDF here directly from the browser. Also from here, from the mailing campaign window, from this section in particular, you can export the information of these properties. You can export this data. You can do that to an Excel file or to a CSV file, or you can print this information. Remember, if you click print here, this prints the information that you see on this window, not the letters. In order to print the letters, you need to click on Mailing Letters as we did before. This button here increments the counter of sent mails. So if I click here on Increment Counter, and I'll click on OK, this adds 1 to the number of letters that I've sent to the properties that I had selected, and it will update the date and time when I sent this information, when I sent these letters. Also, if you want, you can click on one or all the properties and you can delete them from the mailing campaign. And I can click on OK. Now instead of 10, I have 9 properties on my mailing campaign. I can filter the properties here on my mailing campaign. I can filter them according to the property information or the last sent date. From here, remember that you can manage the filter for your mailing campaign. You can either save a specific parameter so you can select it later. You can reset the filters that you apply. You can select these 9 properties and you can add them to the follow-up system right from here, simply clicking on that button. And once you click on the little house, it opens as always this dialog. So you can select if you want to add the properties as buying, as selling, or as prospecting. I'll leave them as buying and I'm going to click on add properties. This automatically sends my properties that I had here on my mailing campaign to my follow-up list. Once it's finished, I'll click on OK, and now these properties are in my follow-up system. Also, I can select one or all the properties and assign them to a different mailing campaign. And finally, I can generate the labels that will go with the letters that I generated before. Again, as same as we did with the letters. All I need to do is select the properties of my mailing campaign and click on the labels button. When you click on the labels button, first we have this dialog that will ask for my preferences when I create labels. Maybe you like your labels a little bit bigger and you like them centered. Here you can select the label type. If you work with a particular type of label, you can also select if you want to have or to use in the labels the address of the owner or the property address. And you can add the line current resident or. If I select yes, in every label will read current resident or. Once I'm happy with my selection, I'll click on apply. And same thing as before, the system opens a new tab with a new PDF file. This time, it offers me the option to save the labels in my computer. I'm going to leave it in the desk as it is, and I'm going to hit on save. And it will save the labels to my computer. Once you generate the labels and you have also the letters, you are set and ready to go, so you can send all the information you need to these properties. And this is how you generate letters and labels from the mailing campaign in your REIFax account.